This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website, portfolio, and online store. For a free trial and 10% off, visit squarespace.com/idlethumbs and enter the offer code THUMBS at checkout. A better web starts with your website, Christopher Scout and Remo.
Wow, mine?
That says Christopher Scout and Remo. They really did their research. They know your middle name. Danielle, what's your middle name?
Rose.
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 Yeah.
Wow.
Very nice.
Yeah, Danielle Rose.
Very nice.
Thank you.
It's very charming.
The rare Danielle
Thank you.
Rose
Thank you very much.
grows on the west-facing slopes of the Urals.
I don't know. The Urals are rather far away from the Appalachian Trail.
Riendeau, that's Russian, right? Let's do this.
Close enough.
It is. God damn it, I gotta do the Jake and look at my phone. I see why you have to look at the calendar. Because you don't know what's 2 days from now. Nobody does. Oh wait, the calendar does. It's June 25th. 4 days past the summer solstice. How was your solstice?
It was amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you stay up all night and
I
howl
did
at the
some
moon?
witchcraft.
Really?
I danced around as like a nymph, like a wood nymph.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty good
That's
stuff.
an appropriate time to have a middle name of Rose.
I think it is.
That the summer solstice.
Yeah, it's a very, very pastoral kind of name,
Bucolic.
Yeah, bucolic. That's
Bucolic sounds like a thing kids get.
I know, it sounds because colic.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he calls it bubonic. It just sounds gross, actually, kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. Because it means such a nice, wonderful thing. And it's, a gross word. Ugh. Bucolic.
Bucolic.
Just saying it,
I know, it makes making me feel bucolic.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh.
Hey, is it?
It is June 25th. What? How does it go? 2014. It is June 25th, 2014.
This is Idle Thumbs 164. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Sean Vanaman.
And I'm Danielle Riendeau.
Welcome.
To this podcast, Jake Rodkin is on assignment in Whitefish, Montana.
Whoa.
That's true.
That sounds like a really bucolic place, as a matter
I
of fact.
kind of want to tell a story about the way Jake and I's relationship works for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please
And
do.
Jake, I mean this, you're not going to listen to the podcast, but I mean this in the spirit which is intended, which is I love you. Jake said, hey man, I'm thinking about taking a week off work from home, in end of June. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude, I don't fucking care. Whatever, man. And then he's on, I get a message, he's like, you were like, oh, he's going to Montana. And I was like, when is he doing that? Okay, whatever. That was said. And then I get a text message from Montana. And I'm like, you're in Montana? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, what happened to work from home? And he's like, oh, they were cheap flights. Okay. You're traveling? Good. All right. Good. So he's been super, all about updating the team chat with photos of the Rocky Mountains and nature and stuff, because I think he feels bad that I was like, you douche, you're leaving.
Is it for research purposes?
No, I think
Not really.
it was sort of a
side benefits.
enough
that.
reasons. Yeah. So he's hiking around looking at watchtowers and stuff.
He sent a really informative video showing the distance between a watchtower and an outhouse, which is ridiculously applicable to our game because that's
really
as we were
is.
trying to figure out where to put the outhouse for a while there.
Jane's gonna have to put an outhouse somewhere.
I already have one in there.
Well, I know, but she's gonna have to make a final determination about.
And now it's going to be
where
in
it
the
should be.
proper,
Her
vicinity.
initial instincts were good.
It was pretty much spot on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. It was
Like a
pretty-
generator thing, a little accoutrement. So yeah,
you got to get it right.
Yeah. So
100% realism.
if you see Jake Rodkin futzing about in Whitefish, Montana, that's actually him. Go say hi, and he'll be really not awkward. I promise.
Yeah. That'll be cool. Whitefish. That's the name of the town itself. Whitefish.
I believe it's near Kalispell, near Glacier National Park. There's a lot of grizzly bears in Glacier National Park. God.
Yeah. There's a lot of national parks in that region of America. I took a cross-country road trip one year, like 5 years ago, right before I started working at the ACLU, and we spent a lot of time in Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana.
Nice.
Really, really pretty country. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. Not as pretty as space, though, is it, Chris?
Oh.
Space is quite pretty. After my
that's a segue.
Yeah, no, that was good.
It's fine.
Was good.
I mean, it's as they go. After I felt like an idiot after my last 3 weeks of kind of banging my head against Star Citizen, trying to understand what it actually is in a full sense, right? Because I feel like when I learned about Star Citizen initially, it's like, oh, it's a space combat game. It's like Wing Commander from the guy who made Wing Commander. Okay, cool. Like, that's great. I like that. And then the more I learned about it, the more I realized I didn't know about what Star Citizen was. So I feel like I've gone through. I went my perceived understanding of Star Citizen started high and then took a huge dip, and I'm climbing back up the other end of the curve thanks to pouring through their website and also reading all the reader mail that has come in about it, and then finally making it far enough in the game to just launch the mode that I bought that I spent $40 on. So I played the dogfighting simulator, which completely undocumented as far as I can tell requires you to put on a helmet that the first time a couple times I launched it up, I didn't even notice. So you put the helmet on, and then you have to go into one specific ship, and only when in that ship with the helmet on, I think, based on some forum posts I found to this effect, only in that situation does the little in-world UI pop up to launch the dogfighting module. So I can imagine most people probably just did that on accident because it's the ship that's closest to you when you launch the hangar, and the helmet is close to you when you start. So I guess I'm either an idiot or I just happen to walk the wrong way.
I kind of like that you don't know. I really do, because I'm thinking about your first day on any job,
right?
Where there's go in the dogfight simulator, just go fucking just
Just go,
get your hours, man. Do some reps, and you're
whatever.
In the hangar.
You're should I ask? Should I go back?
I don't want that to come across as
Just
stupid.
the AI.
And you're just.
That's what it was like, because
I love it.
It's even closer to that than it would be in a normal video game, because in this case, it's this entire there is this entire community of people who know everything about it inside and out. They know, the new module comes out, they're great, good, look at all my ships, check the thing, see how this stacks up. Everything is completely understood.
Yeah, you're the new guy.
Yeah, and I'm just bumbling through, no goddamn clue. No, but I did get it launched and fly around. It's fucking beautiful. I mean, it's a resource hog for sure. This game uses a lot of RAM, I've noticed, and so I'm going to upgrade just the amount of RAM I have, which is fine. That's a really cheap upgrade. But and also it's unoptimized, I would imagine. This is their alpha. It's an alpha phase, completely unoptimized thing. But it is
weird. They should sell RAM. They sell everything else.
Yeah, I know, it's true. God, I launched it
right from their interface.
By the way, speaking of selling things, so sorry, I haven't talked about the game yet, but whatever. There's more non-game to this game than there is game.
That's
right
why
now.
I like it. I think it's great.
So I'm fine to talk about more non-game.
Yeah.
So I launched the patcher launcher thing, the little in between widget that you use to launch the game, and it downloads patches and has a little news feed of latest things, and there's new Cyan or something ship release, and I click on it, and it's hey, Star Citizens, here's the newest ship from Robert Space Industries, and they have a little in browser WebGL widget where you can rotate this new crazy looking alien ship around and go into the cockpit and stuff just in your web browser, and there's a buy link and it's $150.
Oh my god!
And it's It's crazy because it's only on sale until this Friday. So they have the illusion of scarcity built in. It's a crazy looking alien ship that doesn't look like any of the other ones, so it feels like a new special thing.
Right.
And then they have a YouTube video of like, you know, game concept stuff, showing it in action and like with dramatic camera and zooming around, you know, which they're really good at doing. And the comments in response to this video were like, "Oh my God, look how fast that ship is! Like, did you up the max speed variable like for the game, like to allow for this? Oh, can't wait to get my hands on this!" And it's like, they just if that's true, like if those commenters are accurate, and I don't know if they are or not, but if that's the case, all that means is they just decided this ship should be faster than the other ones that are out. But that it creates, because they've successfully
jealous of these
because
people.
successfully pitched this as like a real universe that has rules and like different manufacturers and a society and an economy, because they've created that like, because they've suspended disbelief to that degree in their community, they can do things like just say, top speed's now 150 instead of 100, and this is the only ship that does that. And people are like, "Oh my God, it's an engineering miracle.
The world has changed."
I mean, I'm sure most of the actual fans here are aware of what's going, like, I don't mean to suggest these people are like living in a deluded universe.
Your disbelief suspended is, you know, it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you're complicit in the entire thing.
Well, because
to a point of enjoyment.
The top comment on it was like, "I've spent 40,000 euros on Star Citizen.
Oh my God.
No,
well spent."
No.
Yeah.
Well spent.
40,000 euros?
That was like the top comment.
It's like, what, just shy of $60,000? Yeah.
And then he was also one of those assholes. You see these people on...
Well, let's not disparage.
No. Let me finish.
Star King.
No, let me finish my sentence.
Star President.
Because you see people like this in comment threads sometimes, right? And he's like, "I've spent 40,000 euros on this. Well spent. Get over yourselves. $150 is like an inexpensive dinner for two people. What's the big deal?" It's one of those people, right? Who just happens to be lucky.
Sounds like a real mensch.
Yeah.
Sounds like a real mensch.
And other, you know, like
$150 is only like, you know, 30 dinners for a poor person.
Yeah,
basically.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's basically what you're saying when you make a comment like that.
Oh God.
And so,
it's like a month of eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's a grocery bill for a month. But anyway, so that, like, again, even before I get into the game, I'm confronted with this, like,
another
tableau,
layer,
right? Like,
that's,
it's just
oh my God.
It's just constant. Also, a thing I learned from that little news feed was that the guy they recently hired to oversee the persistent universe section of the game is a former Origin Online or Origin Systems employee from the 90s, who is the guy who made the Crusader games.
Oh, wow.
Do you guys remember those? Crusader No Remorse and Crusader No Regret?
Really vaguely.
There were these like isometric shoot 'em ups.
Yeah.
They were like these crazy, like, violent shooters. They were fun. Like, it was just such a weird pull, like weird memory thing. That's like, what the hell? And the fictional so the Arena Commander is the name of this like dogfighting simulation module that they released, and it looks exactly like the Wing Commander logo, but with Arena instead of Wing.
Yeah,
not exactly, but very, very, very evocative of it. And then it's developed by a fictional company called Original Systems. You know, and Origin Systems was obviously the studio that made the original Wing Commander. So like and then they hire this guy from Origin who worked on like Ultima 7 and I think Ultima Underworld, and then was the lead programmer and lead designer of the Crusader games. Like, this whole everything about Star Citizen is fascinating.
Much to
everything about
here,
it is fascinating. And so anyway, eventually I get into the actual dogfighting part, and it's crazy. It's kind of a crazy feeling actually to play a game like this that is just a PC game that is pulling out all the stops in this kind of way. You know what I mean? Because there are like big AAA games about like running around on the ground and like having a gun or jumping into a vehicle or something. But those all feel like the same type of technical exploration.
Right. There's there's a ceiling on whatever the vehicles are going to do because it's modular to whatever the thing is. Like, even the vehicles in Battlefield are really impressive but it's not like this insane deep dive.
Yeah. And even more so on foot, right? Like you understand the parameters of what that's going to be. Like whether or not...
I can run a little further with a different button, or there's an energy system. Or
and
whatever.
graphically, like, graphically it's like what it's going to be most of the time. Yeah, like every once in a while there's kind of a watershed moment like Crisis or something where you're like, whoa, this is ambition on a different scale, for this genre. But for the most part, it's rare that like a first person on foot game is going to just like completely be astonishing visually. And this game is not that. It's not redefining anything, but it's just in a totally different category of visuals than most AAA current games are. It's not that there aren't space games or anything, and not that there haven't been PC space games in the past, and not that there aren't AAA PC games. This is just a category that hasn't been represented in a while, and it was crazy to boot it up and be like, oh yeah, this is what a modern space, like cockpit-driven space game is in 2014, targeting gaming PCs. You just haven't played that in a while. Mm-hmm. Jake's always, I wish Jake were here actually, because he's always, no offense, Junior Mints.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not Jake.
Also glad you are
There's
here.
A spot for a fourth microphone.
Yeah,
there is
we do have
Jake's absence.
We do have four microphones.
Yes.
So I did not mean to imply
That's all right.
wishing for your absence. But one of the things Jake often talks about when he's talking about modern Nintendo games is this notion of like, if you showed this to me
when I was 10,
like explode. Modern Mario Kart or a modern Mario game or something like that, like, and just said this is what the future of games would be, I would have believed you and also gone insane, right?
Right, because at the same time, it's familiar but fantastic.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what this is like when I think back to playing Wing Commander and TIE Fighter and all these games that, like, I grew up playing basically three kinds of games: adventure games, like LucasArts and Sierra games, strategy games, like SimCity, Civilization, Warcraft, games like that, and like space combat games, like TIE Fighter, X-Wing, Wing Commander. Those were, I mean,
on PC, that's sort of all the genres at that.
That's the best.
There were shooters.
There were shooters, which I didn't get into until like the late 90s.
Right.
There were other things, but those
they were all versions.
But those were big. But those were like pretty big and also pretty specific to PC, right? Mm-hmm. Like there were platformers on the PC, but they were marginal. Jazz Jackrabbit and shit like that.
Right.
Like not as cool as they were on consoles. Mm-hmm. But those were like big PC genres, and those I was like heavily steeped in the early 90s, and at this point, I'm enough of a like shitty jaded adult who's also a game developer to not ever really be just like completely floored by what a game looks like in just a technical sense. But if I showed Star Citizen to my 8-year-old self, I would have completely fucking exploded because it is completely comprehensible to me on a gameplay level in the way those games were. Like, you open up the key bindings and it's like, yes, like F1, F2, F3, F4, like power, shields, weapons, or like, like R, hit T, like to cycle through targets. Like, you see them represented in your little like HUD thing. You have your map that you like mouse, because I always used a mouse instead of a joystick. Like, nice, they're like pawing at the mouse pad with the mouse to like get more distance until I get my guy in view. Like, weapons overheating, let them cool down. Like, all of these and like throttle up down, afterburner, like cut throttle, boost, like all this shit, just all these things that that were not on the order of a serious flight sim, but definitely enough additional complexity past like a platformer or a Wolfenstein or something that as a kid makes you feel awesome. Like enough, It's like that middle ground that like at that age was rad. And I'm playing this, I'm like, this, Jesus, I could have just sat down at this at age 8 and been totally awesome at it and thought it was the most mind-blowing thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I don't mind that it feels so similar to those games because it just hasn't. There have been space combat games since then, and I know there are other ones like Elite Dangerous that are being developed right now, but it just hasn't been. It's not been that highly represented, really, compared to basically every other genre, every other like formerly commercially successful genre. There's been no like renaissance like there kind of has been with adventure games and stuff like that. But it doesn't feel archaic in the way that some very traditional adventure games do, because this genre doesn't feel like it. There's so much interaction in it that it feels like it's aged pretty gracefully. You know what I mean? Like just in the way you interact with it, it's like, yeah, this is like pretty meaty still. Like this doesn't feel like out of date or stodgy. Like this. It's actually kind of refreshing because so many modern action games are so much the opposite now. That this like old gameplay paradigm actually still feels really like novel. So I'm just rambling. I'm sorry.
No,
but
it's
it was
good.
like,
You know what's funny? Because I was thinking about the 8-year-old Chris who's having his brain cleaved.
sure.
And then I started thinking about this game as like, because that kid exists right now who's finding these games.
Yeah.
Even though
and that kid is bummed that he can only afford
that is what I was going to say is like, it might not be like a valid like line of thought, but what do these economic models mean to a 10-year-old?
Right.
Like how, because I remember when I was,
there's a really pissed 10-year-old who can't convince his mom to get him the $150
yeah,
alien.
right. You know, like I remember when the iPod came out, I was in high school ish but I was young enough. I don't think I was driving. What year did the iPod come out? Like
2001 or something?
9? Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe not yet. It was
I
probably
thought it was the very end of
You're probably
9, so I was like 14.
Wrong,
I don't even know.
And I remember being like, fuck, I want this thing. Like I wanted it so bad, but it was $300 maybe $400. And I was like, that's just a realm of money that I don't know
you don't even
about or
comprehend
have.
it. Yeah.
Like
How
to
would
where
one
like if
acquire
I
this much
suggest
money?
the mere suggestion to one of my parents that I wanted this piece of hardware was like not going to be met with a no. It was going to be met with a fence.
I know. I know exactly that.
You have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
Like what would you like your mother and I to give up?
Right.
You know what I mean? That sort of thing where it's you have like just you know, like leaving it's like leaving food in front of your grandparents who like went through the depression, that level of offense where it's like, what? I'm just not hungry. You know? But like that's got to be
2001, by the way.
2001.
Sorry.
So yeah, okay, no, it's fine. I was a real age then. I was like 16. Yeah, so the same, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah, and it's got to be the same thing. Like, Mom,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
want this ship. You don't understand. It's only available for 2 weeks.
You
It's
don't
the
understand,
fastest one.
You don't understand.
Like, oh.
Yeah.
Because that mom's like 45.
Yeah.
So like has no basis of like, is just old enough to not even remember, like to not know anything about any of it. And now it's just, I need $150 for a fucking thing.
Made up spaceship.
In a game you already bought.
In a
It's
game
like,
that
I already bought
in a
you the
game
game.
that doesn't exist yet.
Oh, yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah.
In a game that you cannot play. Like if you bought that ship today, you could do nothing with it. It would not be available in the dogfighting
And you can't
module.
even,
Like
put it
a
under your
well-to-do-
bed and like take it out and look at it and kind of stroke it.
Not
You know,
even,
that
yep.
kind of. You can't even do that.
Nothing. You can rotate around it in a little 3D viewer.
Well, it also sort of
that
creates
anyone
a, like-
else who doesn't own it could also do on their website.
Like I remember like you wanted certain things when you were that age, but like, and they were around you and they were like, and the fact that they were like on TV and in magazines, right? But like this kid, this hypothetical 10-year-old who wants this $150 ship is like a member, like a communicative member of a community that can just spend the money. Like he's basically, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, he's hanging out
he's
with all these people.
elbow to elbow.
This
People are
guy
like,
who's
whatever.
spending $40,000.
So, exactly.
And that kid doesn't know what $40,000
Right.
means.
Yeah.
Like that person exists to him inside of the
As a
200
community
people
member.
he knows
Yeah.
inside this community
Yep,
or
totally.
whatever. And that's got to really fucking just
Yeah, mess
twist
with
your noodle, man. Like what? Your concept of
Oh,
like,
man.
because now it's like I spent 40,000 euros on this game. 5 years from now, kid's like talking to his guidance counselor. Well, son, like, you know, college is only $50,000 a year. And he's like, okay. So that's like 4-star citizens, not a big deal. You know, like it's just gotta be so crazy with your like how you perceive. We live in a weird time for that sort of economic perception anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
So it being able to be boiled down inside of Star Citizen, because it is like that is some 1920s Great Gatsby level of fucking economic disparity.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Between the $30
It's just
entry
that-
pack and the
it's just that at the
40,000
time,
euro.
That would be like the sort of the
Sorry, I just hit my head because I realized, sorry, if this guy spent 40,000 euros, then there's 40,000 euros worth of stuff to buy. Like, that just finally hit me.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
really...
they had a ship that
It's like finding somebody who spent $1,000 at McDonald's. You're like, wow, that's...
How did you do?
Wait a
did
second.
you buy the store?
Yeah, was there more than one McDonald's?
Was there real estate?
Did they have?
did they have a franchise on sale?
Yeah, exactly. Are you a franchise holder now? Yeah.
Well, I remember there was one package of something that went for $10,000 just on its own.
But this is not. Sorry, I'm gonna I'm sure this is really boring to a lot of readers who have heard a lot about Star Citizen because they've been listening
From
to the podcast.
us.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been on the podcast in 3 weeks. So, that's not an auction system, right?
No,
that's literally sticker price.
Yeah, I think you just buy it from the site.
Wow. Is this how they're funding their
I'm
game?
actually really jealous, not because they're making so much money, but because that must be it's such a fun playground to be like, what do you think we can charge 10 grand? Like, I don't know. I would just like to be in that meeting.
Pay this.
Not for when the money shows up because they're already so fucking rich.
They're so flush, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just sort of like, think we could can we sell the undercoating? Can we sell the undercoating? Ah, we can sell the undercoating.
How about decals?
It's like a different specular map, you know what I mean? Like, whatever.
Yeah, decals, God. If you could customize your ship with
On
like
your
your
ship.
call sign on the side of the ship.
What do you mean if you could? You don't think that's like...
It's in the
There's
works.
a whiteboard at all fucking Robert Space Industries, and at the top of it, some engineer is on that.
Decals.
Okay, so $10,000 was one of the Kickstarter tiers. I wonder if it was also offered after.
Nice.
In there, like, because
I bet it was.
they had like a slacker
Why wouldn't
backer.
it be?
That's their whole thing, is that, right? I wonder, because I mean,
it's ongoing. Yeah.
What did they clear at Kickstarter?
Kickstarter was a few million.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, they're up to 40.
It was like 10% of their less than 10% of what they
less than 10. Well, because they're still collecting, it's still going up.
Yeah. And they're still charging $150 for the special alien spaceship.
Did you buy? You didn't buy the alien spaceship, did you?
No, I haven't spent any. You know what's weird? I
think you should buy one really expensive spaceship, and you should just charge it to Thumbs.
Fine with me
for research. I think at this stage, if you stick with this game, I think you owe it to us to do that.
Because this is the thing. So I'm not like I described like my kind of where my nostalgia for this stuff comes from and so on. But like I'm also not one of the people who has been playing every one of these sort of sparse offerings in this genre that's come out over the last 15 years and like held on to hope that every new one of them is like the savior of the genre and like been disappointed time and time. So
when the Kickstarter went up, you didn't run to the forums.
Exactly.
Be like, guys, finally.
Right. Yeah. So when I launched the thing, for me, this is like equal parts, like kind of nostalgia and like anticipation and just bemusement and befuddlement. Right. But like, it's a pretty even spread on that. Like when I loaded it up and I saw the alien thing, I had a brief moment of like, whoa, like, but then the longer I spent, like, it was like a peak and then a quick fall off, right? And I'm like, okay, well,
I did that very recently with a real product, like, and I was at, in Hayes Valley there, they have like the big container ship,
the Aether,
yeah, they have a motorcycle jacket in there that's like, I don't know, like $1,400. Woof. Yeah. And I tried it on and I was like, whoa, wow. I like, whoa. No, what am I doing? Hold on. I can't be in here. And I got mad at the guy. I was like, fuck you. I don't even, I'm like, ugh. Yeah. But it's the same thing where you're like, there's a brief moment. You're like, I have this. You know what I mean? You see yourself with it. You're like, oh, I own this for 7.5 seconds. Oh, what? No, I don't.
Yeah. And so it's not, that went pretty quick. But because even though I'm not as like, I'm not a follower of this stuff really, like, I'm sure that most of the people who are at least started in the same place I did, right? Which was playing this stuff 20 years ago.
Right.
And like growing up with it or finding it, at a time when they were like figuring out why games were cool, which was, the case with me. And so I can totally understand where that impulse comes from, right? Because part of it is like you want to own the thing because this whole thing is being created by people who are calibrated to understand the things that this community thinks are cool because they were also there to, or at least not all, I mean, most of these developers are just from wherever, but like, key people involved were there from the beginning and I've been following this community. And then also buying this stuff makes you feel like I am supporting this. Like Star Citizen is the most successful crowdfunded thing ever, basically. Maybe there's a couple products on Kickstarter that are more so, but like Star Citizen way up there in terms of most successful crowdfunded anything, right? Top few. And I'm sure for a lot of these people supporting it, it's like, this is fucking awesome. Like, we're showing everybody, like, this is the biggest, awesomest thing around, and I'm contributing to that every time I buy another spaceship. You know, so I'm sure that I can understand
feeling that's sort of wrapped into that as well.
They just basically have made a desire engine. You know what I mean? Totally, where you're like, you want the whole time.
And then loading up the dogfighting thing, it really gives you no sense of what the overall thing is going to be like, because like it was easy, right? Like
it seemed like this competent space combat. It's like well executed.
I didn't really get, like, the bots didn't really fire back on me that aggressively, and like it wasn't online. It's just against bots, and like you can only use the one ship, and there's none of the online stuff, and there's none of the integration persistent stuff. So it doesn't really tell you what the game's going to be like, but it's enough to load it up and be like, it's real. Like, it's a real thing.
That, the line from there to where you're imagining is
suddenly
now.
Shrunk.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's elastic. So I don't know. It's a fascinating thing. I'm definitely going to follow it more closely than I did before. I still, I share Jake's kind of skepticism about how this stuff is going to cohere into one complete product. After being developed at like 8 different studios around the world and like all these different modules.
In the secret bunker in Colorado.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. God, we should have sent Jake to Colorado and had him.
Oh yeah, investigate.
But anyway, I got to shut up about Star Citizen. It's monopolizing our goddamn podcast. Sorry.
You're a citizen
This
of the
episode
stars.
is brought to you by Robert's Space Industry.
God, if only.
God,
they can afford it.
They make a
for
custom
10% off your fucking Raptor X alien craft.
Oh, nice. You should get a custom car commercial or /spaceship.
Did you guys talk
commercial.
about those last week? I imagine.
Yeah, we did.
God,
We played snips from them on the podcast.
Wonderful
stuff.
Yeah, God, incredible.
Such good stuff.
I know.
Nice. Well, I played another puzzle platformer with an
That's your jam.
anthropomorphized animal.
How are there more?
Yeah, how are there even any of these left?
Yeah, there is another.
What
and
is
this
it?
one's actually...
At this stage, you must be being sent them specifically.
I think so. I think this is like
beat.
my new...
This is your beat.
Yeah.
It's my beat at Polygon, definitely. It's like, it's a cute platformer. There's an animal in it.
Also,
totally.
Before I forget, speaking of animal-related video game beats, I saw...
Can't imagine. Sorry. I just went to the folding file to see what could be in there. Empty.
I know.
Go ahead.
That segue. I saw Kara Ellison posted an image of like an email she was sent that was like, in my list of video game, in like this list of video game contacts I acquired, you were listed as video game and swan journalist. And it's like, the email it's like about a story on swans. And it's like, we're trying to get this picked up in the paper. And like, if you don't have time, could you please connect me with any other swan journalists who you may know from your community?
Oh, wow.
Like, it's
That's
a pitch
incredible.
about swan, and she's like, she has no clue.
She should take the story.
I know.
Like,
It probably pays really well. Like, weird niche journalism, like, can, at least in the past, at least, more than 5 years ago, it used to pay incredibly well. There was like a miniature goat breeding magazine. Like, I don't know where. It was in the southern states, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it paid, like, really, really well. Like, a great rate per word, just because nobody, writes about that
swan
stuff.
journalist.
But swans.
Upland waterfowl.
I thought this had to do something with this is where my brain goes. The Service Women's Action Network. It's basically like it's for, women who are in the military or recently retired from the military.
Service Women's Action Network. I get it.
Yeah, it was like, that's what I thought this is going to be, but no. No,
sorry.
apparently not.
This
is about a bird, though.
Okay,
this
that's fine.
game that I'm playing now, or just finished. I think I have a couple more levels to go, but basically, it's called Munin, and it is about Munin, Munin.
Munin.
Munin is Odin's raven. This is a Norse mythology based.
Okay, where do these games come from? Okay, go ahead.
I have no. It's Daedalic, and so it's
Wait, how do I know that name? What do they do?
They do a lot of adventure games.
Yes, adventure games.
They've done,
Yeah.
God, it's escaping me right now.
They're a publisher, though, right?
They
Not
are a publisher.
developer?
Yeah, they're a publisher. I believe they're German. And I've actually really enjoyed the last few data-like games I've played. You know, some fairly obscure adventure games, that sort of thing.
Searching for Munin doesn't even... Oh, I see.
Don't go to the website right now because it's down.
Oh. It's a very pretty game. It's very sort of painterly.
Developed by Gojira.
Gojira, that's right. Mm-hmm. Those are the folks who actually made it. And I have no idea where they are or what else they've done, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's a very, very pretty 2D game.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
The backgrounds are almost impressionistic.
Oh, wow,
it's very, very pretty.
It has a little, like, it kind of... I mean, I'm looking at a screenshot, so...
Yeah,
there's a
that's fine.
broken agey, sort of, like, very, like...
A tiny bit, yeah. It's very watercolor, like impressionist, and actually the background. I don't know if you can like check out a video or a GIF/GIF. I don't know how we pronounce it.
GIF on adult thumbs.
GIF. It actually pulses a little bit.
Please don't.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Oh, no.
Just don't send us any fucking tweets about it. We know what you're going to say already. Sorry, go ahead.
Unless it's really
problem.
good.
Unless it's a great tweet. Yeah. Basically, the light actually pulses a little bit, so it has this really nice, very painterly sort of aesthetic to it. And you are Munin, who is Odin's raven, who has been turned into a person by Loki.
I was going to say, this Munin looks like a person.
He looks like a little bit of a raven person. He has kind of a weird looking face, but otherwise he moves very, he's very crow-like. In fact, he looks very much like, exactly. Sorry. Brandon Lee, like the Crow, 1995.
It does kind of.
He has the makeup and everything. That's the first thing I thought. Cool thing about the game, it's a puzzle platformer. It's much more puzzle than platformer.
It looks like the movement looks really kind of floaty and
it's
not
very
platformish.
floaty. Yeah, it kind of sucks a little bit actually.
Yeah.
But what you do is primarily you're rotating sections of the screen so that you can actually navigate to them, which is actually very cool.
Okay.
And there's actually a lot of variety in the game, which I dig. So there are 9 worlds, and each one has sort of a different mechanic. You learn the very basic movement of, just twisting the parts of the world to make a path and, twisting them back to get to the other areas you need to get to.
A 2D version of I mean, obviously this is way oversimplification, but it kind of reminds me of Monument Valley.
A little bit,
but in 2D.
Yeah, totally. It's a lot like that.
You're constantly rotating that levels when I came around.
Yeah, it's a
or
lot
like parts
like that.
Of levels. Which is what makes it
little
different
tiny
from Fez
portions.
or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's little tiny portions of the screen, and you can never actually rotate what you're on at the moment, which makes things much more difficult.
Yeah,
and in a good way. You know, you have to kind of always be thinking 2, 3, 4 moves ahead, basically.
Yeah.
For every move you make. And each world has a unique mechanic. There's a world where you're manipulating lava. There's a world where you're manipulating these giant sort of like ball things, like Indiana Jones style, Raiders of the Lost Ark, like a giant ball that will, give weight to certain areas and not other areas.
I'm looking at that right
It's really, really good. Really, really well designed. It's really smart. It's a little janky, definitely. Like the controls aren't quite all there, and the physics are a little weird at times. I was definitely stuck on one puzzle for like 45 minutes on Saturday night because the ball wouldn't properly fall where I wanted it to. It was one of those moments, you know.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm really, really enjoying it.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's very so this is definitely another puzzle platformer starring an animal, but this has a much more somber tone and a serious tone.
Yeah, it's no Scapegoat 2.
Yeah, it's not a scapegoat. It's not full bore.
Full bore, yeah.
No more wake up sheeple.
How long do you think you can keep this up?
I hope as long as possible because I've actually really liked all these games. They've been really good and really well designed.
Are there additional entries in this genre that you have not yet played that you're aware of that are relatively current?
Oh, man. God.
Please send more suggestions to questions@idlethumbs.net.
Yes.
So Danielle can continue this weird...
I want to play all of them.
This bizarre trend.
I want to play all of them, especially if they're good. Like, all of these have been kind of awesome puzzle games that were quite smart. So, I want all of them. Also, the other ones were kind of cute. And this one's, a little more serious, but it's still, there's a cuteness to it.
It looks like the backgrounds look more appealing to me than the other stuff. But yeah. Yeah,
there's a bit of a whimsy to it. There's definitely an underworld kind of area, and that's actually the most interesting mechanically, I think, because you basically, I don't know the word for it, so I'm going to make a lot of gestures that'll be great radio. But when you were young, if you had a 3D sort of little cube puzzle, like a physical cube puzzle where there was a ball that you had to sort of make it drop a certain way through little obstacle areas. I'm sure there's a word for it. I'm sure there's a term for it. But
it's like a maze sort of thing.
Yeah, it's just basically like a little maze puzzle. Yeah. The entire underworld area, you're manipulating those in order to sort of make platforms move. And it's actually very complicated and very interesting and super satisfying when you sort of eventually get to the solution. So this was pure brain candy for me.
Awesome.
So Munin is great. I don't know, it released like during E3, so I have no idea if anybody, took it very seriously or paid attention to it, but it's definitely worth looking into.
Sweet.
That's really all I've played since E3. So.
That's okay. Games.
Do you want to take a break?
Yeah. Break. Video game.
I let Nick have this seat because I'm a generous soul, but this is actually the best seat in the house for many reasons.
Whoa. I was there last week.
I'll tell you why. You know why this is the best seat?
Because you're sitting in it?
The reasons are threefold. One,
I thought it was quite simple.
it's in the corner of a couch. Yeah. Yes, I know all the seats
Just
are in the
this
corner
thing?
of a couch.
Oh, nice.
But
Begin these threefold reasons again.
well, it's these three facts coexisting is what makes it the best seat, not the facts individually.
No,
It's the sum of the argument here, yeah.
I'm in the corner of a couch, step one. Step two, I can see outwards into the windows, into the beyonds, into the trees, into the park. Fact three, if a gunman were to come in that door, I'd be the last one to be killed. So I'm out of the eye line. Like if you were doing a
sweep,
a CQB. That's what I learned from all those Tom Clancy video games.
Yeah, seriously.
I would be fine. I wouldn't be fine, but I would be like,
you'd have a half a second.
I'd have a half a second to be the master of my own destiny, and that's all I need.
Yeah, you could stare at our
That's all I need in life.
splattered everywhere,
Yes. Yeah, hold on, I need to put it on airplane mode. But I'm going to turn Wi-Fi on. Do the Rodkin.
Wow.
Do the Rodkin is my favorite dance. It's kind of like a...
It's just kind of you stand around.
Just stand around and look this...
Do you make a pig noise? That would be cute.
God, if I could do the pig noise...
Piggy noise.
I would probably... If I could do the pig noise, I would instantly hatch a plan to take Jake's chunk of Camposanto for myself because I would no longer need him.
That's how he makes himself valuable.
That's really all here. I gotta get rid of Rodkin. Oh, he does that big noise though. I'm a little phlegmy. Don't know why. I'm overproducing saliva. That's not good.
Video games. Wait, you can text GIFs?
Yeah, you save them to your camera roll, and it looks like it saves as a still image, but then you can text it and it moves.
What?
Yeah, it's a thing.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Your mom is
I had
way
no
more
idea
savvy
you could
than
text
my
GIFs. This is important knowledge. Okay, well.
Yeah, I use it.
I'll put this knowledge to use later.
I have friends that I
Right
only
now.
communicate with a back catalog of saved GIFs I have on my phone.
You are a GIF collector.
Yeah.
You're one of those.
I'm a
sure.
hoarder for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
You should see my desktop.
Do you have
Hoarder
a
of
folder?
GIFs.
Or how do you do that?
You really want to know?
Yeah.
So I have a system. I save a lot to my camera roll on my phone
Yeah.
as I find them, and then I clear them out, but then they end up going usually into my Dropbox from there.
Yeah.
And then I have a section on the left part of my desktop that's just like a pile of ones that I find that I like. And I'm like, okay, I'll just hold on to these. And then I have some go-tos that live in my Dropbox in case I really need them, boom. And then I delete a lot of them, but I keep a mental catalog of what I need. And then I have a few sites that I can track them down on.
I've noticed you follow some Twitter accounts too. I ended up on a GIF Twitter account profile page today.
Oh, nice.
And it was followed by Sean Vanaman.
Oh, I know which one it was.
Oh, really? What was it?
It must have been the Ministry of GIFs.
It was.
Oh.
It was that.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's one of the greats.
You're a ministry follower, I see.
Yeah.
Excellent.
He's
Well,
one of the flock.
I think
Yes.
nobody knows who actually runs that account, but it's somebody who works at Twitter, and I think I
Really?
know who it is.
Really?
Adam and I were talking about it, yeah, because Adam works there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're one of the few people in the world who could have that conversation.
Well, I mean, there's...
That's such an inside baseball.
Sorry, I didn't really think about it, because it's there's so many of those fuckers now.
Nobody really knows who runs the Ministry of GIFs. But people think it's someone within Twitter. I got a line.
I got a lead right here.
What?
I might be wrong.
The
No,
people
I'm
need
not.
to
It's
know.
nothing to do with whether you're right or wrong. It's the fact that you're even capable of the fact that it would occur to you to speculate about that is what cracks me up.
Yeah.
The special world.
And then have the ability to back up that speculation with informed kind of hypothesis.
I mean, it's not that informed. It's...
It still cracks me up.
It's a
What's
beautiful
one of two
world we
people?
live in.
Toast them. Oh no!
The McElroy laugh.
Fucking A. It's weird. It's like
Well,
every
Justin's
time I
is the
hear
most that
every
of
time
anyone.
I hear him in that Vine say that, I feel like we are closer friends. It's worth saying we are not friends. I've never met him. And secondly, I care for him more. Like, it's like, I feel like I'm going to hit an event horizon with Justin McElroy where I will just, like, invite him to, like, high holidays.
Like, want to come meet my mom?
Yeah. Just, dude, say toast him. Toast them.
Toast them.
It's so good.
If I was feeling salty, I would try to do the entire mid-roll as Justin McElroy.
Oh my god, please do.
No, I don't have it in me today. Not today.
Video games.
We would like to thank our sponsor for the week, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform. It makes it fast and really easy to create your own professional website or portfolio or even an online store. And for a free trial and 10% off, you can visit squarespace.com/idlethumbs and enter the offer code thumbs at checkout. So, yeah, they've been a sponsor for a while now. We like Squarespace a lot. We can totally like vouch for their service. If you need to make any professional looking website, it's just like a go-to, easy, one-stop shop for all of those things. Really straightforward.
We have another Idle Thumbs reader Squarespace portfolio up. We got a bunch of these, but here's
That's awesome.
here's one chosen arbitrarily. PaulScottCanavan.com. Exactly how it sounds. PaulScottCanavan.com.
Nice.
He is a concept art illustrator, and he's got some really pretty stuff up on this Squarespace site, and I'm looking
This is nice.
at it
This is really, really
on
pretty. He's
my
a talented
You're
writer.
cellular
scrolling through
telephone,
it like it's like
and
like,
it just works.
Like that looks really nice.
It's good. Anyway, squarespace.com.
/idle thumbs. Enter the offer code thumbs at checkout for a free trial and 10% off. Thank you, Squarespace.
Yay.
Hooray.
Bong.
Video games.
I wish I could draw like that.
There's so many things I wish I could do.
Like box.
Oh, man.
I like a box.
Wow. It's on now. Now that's the glove has been
seriously.
No,
the gloves are off.
The gloves are on.
They're on, rather.
on. Yeah, that's dangerous.
Rather.
I can't box you
Why not?
because I can't punch you in the face because you're my friend.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a reasonable thing to say, I think.
Because
Yeah.
if I just, like, if you caught me and then I got mad and somehow, and I'm not saying this would happen because you'd probably block it or dodge or whatever, and uncorked and landed something on you, I would be done. That would be it for me.
Oh, I understand the instinct. You know, I've boxed with many beginners who are like, I don't want to hit her. And also, there's definitely an element which I understand of like, I don't want to hit a woman. Which
No, I don't have that.
I don't think that's a bad thing. Now,
Not with
let
you.
me be clear. Not with me, right?
You're made
let
of
me be
iron.
clear. That's not a bad instinct.
Sure.
But, you know, it's very much like the more you do it, the more you get used to it, the more you get used to getting hit, the more you get used to dodging, the more you get used to blocking, the more you kind of like just get into the flow of things. And
I came from
know.
like a family, or at least my dad we were both very into boxing.
nice.
So like I've been around it and boxed here and there and a little bit in college and high school and stuff. And like,
Yeah.
so I've been in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't like it. Nobody
it's not
but like,
fun.
you know, it's like, it's not so much. Yeah. Like it'd be so much easier to just beat the shit out of some guy. Cause I could be like, oh, he's a dick. I don't know this guy. I just write a story about him before we spar. And I'm like, oh, you're mean to your girlfriend. Let's do this.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like, it's weird. When I first started, I thought I'd bring more personal stuff into the ring, and I do into the boxing gym. Like, when I'm hitting the bag, I'm definitely picturing, like, all the things I'm mad about in life.
Yeah, sure.
But when I'm actually in the ring with another person, all emotions are just drained from me, and I'm just, like, laser focused on just the strategy.
Hit that guy.
Don't get hit. Hit him. There's an
Right.
opportunity there. And that's, like, the most freeing and wonderful
Right, it's like
thing
if you
in
played
my
chess
life.
against somebody you hated.
Yeah,
You wouldn't just be like,
yeah.
I gotta fucking get that rook. You'd be like,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot what it's like. I'm just saying, apparently a lot of people want us to hit each other on Twitter.
Yeah, I know most of
I
who
don't
they
know
are.
why,
and
but-
they're all ladies who all secretly plot my demise. Not even secretly, publicly
It was
plot
pretty
my
open.
demise.
Yeah, it was an open plot.
Alice O'Connor just wants to look. She suplexed me on the deck
Oh, really?
during the party. You guys weren't here for that? There's a good photo of
I
it.
missed this.
I think I saw the aftermath of this, but I wasn't aware of the
Yeah,
lead
it's
up.
on Twitter somewhere. Yeah.
I completely missed
So you'd be the second, like, video game writer
Lady.
who just kicked the shit out of me.
Oh. Well,
That's fine.
I fight fair, so
I would
there's
be,
that.
you know what? I would be totally content with, like, a good draw.
Yeah.
That would be perfect. If I don't get embarrassed and I don't have to hurt you, perfect. Like,
I feel the same way, Sean.
perfect. Just a trickle of blood
don't
from
have
my
to hurt
nostril and a
you.
trickle of blood from your nostril.
And it would be really special if it was like my right and your left.
It would be
very
really nice.
symbiotic.
It would be
like
nice, yeah.
just a little bit of
We would
just a little
hug
bit of
and
blood.
we just,
And then we would have dual streams.
Yeah.
Oh, it would be
That's
so
really-
lovely.
It's really intense.
Such a great
Cool,
moment.
guys.
Yeah.
Cool.
What's funny is we would walk out of the gym and she'd be like, "Oh, it was so great, so invigorating. Bye, Sean." High five, go around the corner, and I would just collapse because my spleen would be ruptured. But I would just be trying to hold it in the whole time.
I would run back home.
Yeah.
briskly.
They're like, "Oh, I didn't run enough. I got another 7 miles with me today."
So great.
The city is 7 miles. She would just find a secret 3 other miles to
Super
get home.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
I go around in the Presidio sometimes. You know,
Oh, woof.
do loops. It's good. It's good stuff.
Woof. That must be nice.
It's really great.
Are
Anyway,
we back?
It sounds like we're back.
I guess so.
We are back.
It
And on
must
your
be back.
recommend, Chris, I follow you on Twitter. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I'm one of your few followers.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah. Well, you recommended a game called Capsule a while
I
back.
did.
And I've been playing it. I
Capsule
started
is
playing
cool.
it
It's
today.
by Adam Saltzman, who made
Oh yeah.
most famously, I guess, Canabalt, and also a bunch of other shit that I'm completely blanking on right now.
You said most famously.
Adam
though.
Atomic.
Gravity Hook, I think he made, which I liked a lot. This is disgraceful that I can't think of more of his games because
This is pretty disgraceful.
he's made a ton of games.
This is a good one of them. It's really good. This is the opposite end of the Star Citizen spectrum. This game was like $3 or
it is.
$5. Yeah. And you're about to sneeze,
Bless
and
you.
the face you were making before you sneezed was hilarious because you were just like, "Yes," and you were nodding like you or
You know the best thing about where I sit in this office is I am a photic sneezer, which means that sunlight induces sneezing.
Oh,
in
you
me.
sit underneath the
Whoa.
skylight.
Yeah, I sit underneath the skylight. So if I ever need to get that good like sneeze catharsis, I can kind of just look up. If I even have the tiniest hint of a sneeze coming
Yeah.
on, I just look up into the
And then
skylight,
there it is.
and I have to like coax it out a little. It's not just like doesn't just happen. You have to
Right.
kind of like
Yeah.
encourage
keep
it.
looking.
It plants the seed of a sneeze.
It plants
though.
a seed of a sneeze, and I can kind of like I can tend that seed, and it sprouts, and then
This is so beautiful.
it's
So
relief.
that is
Oh,
really
it's the
beautiful.
best.
You should write a poem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very poetic sneeze.
I know. I
story.
only noticed that today. That if I look up from where I'm sitting, I'm looking into sunlight, and I can induce a sneeze if the circumstances are right.
if it all
Right.
works out. Yeah.
Sunny day in Pachuro.
Yeah, and if I got a tingle, it's just the best.
That's awesome. I like that positive
It's like-
can-do
If
attitude.
I got a tingle.
Because when you start to like
Yeah.
start to come on, and then it goes away, and it's like disappointing.
There's nothing. That's like one of
you
the most
want the catharsis.
unsatisfying things
exactly.
in the
Yeah,
world.
you want
Get
that
out.
like explosion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Capsule.
I mean, everything you just said is true, which I think is worth pointing
Yeah,
out,
Thanks.
despite whether it needs to be said or not.
It was a
I needed to
factual
say it.
statement.
Yeah, no,
you know?
I agree.
There might be a difference between what needs to be said and what I need to say,
Right.
but I perceive no such distinction.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Capsule's good.
It's a good moment.
Sorry. How the fuck did? Yes, Capsule. It's good.
Capsule is, if you've ever played a game, if you ever played DEFCON, it's sort of in that same
It's like
realm.
same AV. It's a totally different kind of
it's a
game.
very different
but
game.
the audio
but
visual
it's
experience is similar.
lo-fi visual, but really carefully crafted. I mean, the whole game is really carefully crafted, but so much of the experience lives inside the audio feedback
nice.
of the game. So
And like DEFCON, it's very sterile. Like you're in a sterile environment.
you're underwater, right? Ish, or you're in space.
Are you?
You don't really know.
Oh.
It feels my
Abstract.
brain when I
so
play
after
the
you
game.
talk about it, I want to talk about that.
Yeah,
After you
and-
talk about your experience.
In
playing.
my brain, I'm underwater, which is actually, this is actually why I had trouble playing the game at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So the way the game starts, it just shows you a really basic
2D.
tutorial. Like left, right changes your rotation on a
In
2D
a capsule.
Okay.
in a 2D plane.
And you see yourself through like a rate, like an XY coordinate, like radar thing.
So
basically.
you can rotate. Imagine just a block on screen that can rotate 360 degrees, and then up down is your thrust, and like which you can go forward or backwards. So it's like there's been like space games where you fly around in a 2D plane through asteroid fields and like this forever, like since like the Apple II. And you get sort of targeted destinations through really like lo-fi computer terminal connections, and you just have to go there and discover an unknown thing. There's like a ping out in the abyss, or the maw or whatever. And then as you go there, you run out of oxygen, and you also can run out of fuel or energy for your craft.
I think I've actually played this, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, so this was like floating around
a year ago.
This was floating around like a year
Yeah.
ago, but now it's been it wasn't sold up until recently though, right? Wasn't it like in the IGF or something?
I can't remember how I played. You know what? Must have been in the IGF. That must have been where I played it.
Yeah. So the sound of your own breathing, or the sound of your own, I shouldn't say breathing, but like consumption of oxygen is always in your head, as is sort of near ambience
maybe it wasn't
of
in the
things that
IGF.
you're encountering. The sort of radio feedback / like signal of your destination as you get closer to it. And in the bottom left corner, you have your bearing between 0 degrees and 360 degrees, and how far away you are from your target.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I'm sorry. I got to interrupt real quick. This was one of the Venus Patrol reward games.
Boom.
That's
Yeah,
where-
it was.
that's
Gun
how I-
Gods
that's
and
how I played it.
Capsule and a couple
Yes.
others.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
that's
go ahead.
exactly right.
Sorry,
Man,
go ahead.
that sucks because I've had this game then for a year and didn't play it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I
Please
bought
continue.
it. And I bought it.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. No, it's totally worth. This is one of those games that I will probably end up buying 5 or 6 copies of, as I remember to, and then just fire them out of a t-shirt cannon to my friends. And then when you get to a base or some sort of like docking station, you usually find a bunch of missives that lead to some sort of mystery of what's happened out here in the wherever
void.
the maw. I think is probably a decent way of there's a game called that, but in the void. Yeah, sure. And it's awesome. It's
Nice.
just the panic you feel of moving through, like, and as you move through 2D space, you can collect air. There's air pockets that you can enter and get oxygen, and then there's like these ion collections that allow you to get energy for your ship. But you don't know; they're all floating around as sort of like just dots on the screen, or like little orbs. And you don't know what it is until you ping. You have sort of like an echolocator, like bong, that comes out from the middle of your capsule, and then when it washes over the item or the thing that's floating in space, it'll tell you what it is, and you can only use that with. It has a small cooldown, so as you're flying, you're sort of like pinging out into the void. But it does. I mean, to get to the point of where the game takes place, the thing that's brilliant about it is that it doesn't tell you where it is. So your immediate gut assumptions based on your unique wiring as a person becomes the setting, and it's perfect, and it's exactly where you want it to be.
Yeah.
So like this game is definitely, and I feel like it's actually spoiling it for you, the reader, by saying it. Like, but this game is definitely underwater for me. It just feels like I am maybe not even under our ocean, but I am just in liquid,
Some kind of fluid space.
And I think it's because I'm running out of oxygen. The concept of like being able to get, so that was actually really challenging for me at the beginning of the game, is it says at 600 meters at at a bearing of 10 degrees, there's a signal. We need you to go check it out. So I'm starting at some 100 meters or whatever, and the game starts. And I think I'm at 600 meters, but then I had to fly away to get oxygen, and then I get kind of lost, and now I'm like at 700 meters. So I'm like, oh, I'm really close. Because I'm thinking that like the object I'm looking for, my brain map of this space is the ocean. So at 0 meters, I'm like, I can get oxygen. I could go all the way up to 0.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope.
So my target is at 600. When I'm actually, what the number means is I'm 600 meters or kilometers or miles or whatever the fuck away from this thing. I think it is meters.
No, I don't remember offhand. It's been a while since.
Yeah, so that's another thing that leads me to think that I'm underwater because I'm going not a very far distance in this tiny capsule. But it's probably not that, whatever. I think it's probably M, which could be miles. It could be whatever, a made-up thing. But I was like, literally couldn't find the first target because I was like, I can't go to 0 because that's the top of the ocean. I need to stay at 600, but at this degree, so I'm just going to try to just coast at 600, like left to right until I find it, which is an impossible task in this game. Like it's not a concept. The game is not about depth. It's about distance away from you. So when you think of that, like, what does that number mean relative to whatever it's being measured from? It's from you, not from the surface or whatever, or the core or whatever.
Any arbitrary place,
Yeah. So I was like, I died like 15 times and was IMing Chris, like, how do you do this? Like, it should be obvious. I don't know. And it is.
I never had that. It's so interesting that you had that was your initial assumption, because I remember playing the game. I started playing the game and played it for a little while before I had, for some reason, my order of mental operations was to like get a handle on the game mechanically before I even started to try, before it even occurred to me, where actually am I?
Oh, it's kind of fascinating.
And I completed the entire game, which I loved. I loved this game. And I beat the whole game, and then I sent an email to Adam Saltzman because he had emailed me. I remember now, he'd emailed me to send me a copy of this game.
Oh, nice.
Which is why I play. I was also a Venus Patrol backer, but whatever. And when I finished it, I emailed him back, and I'm like, okay, one, this was awesome. And okay, separately, before I talk about this conversation, I was like, quickly, a thing I liked about this game was that it split the difference between a kind of score-driven gameplay style game, which is a thing that he's worked on a lot before, like Gravity Hook, Canabalt, games like that.
There's a story to Canabalt, but you're just trying to get a high score.
It's a premise.
Yeah. It's a premise. You're right.
Right. Whereas Capsule, it does a thing kind of that I think games like Cart Life do, whereas it takes a very gamey game style of core gameplay and then wraps it in like a meaningful fictional layer that actually synthesizes with the style of game that it is, as opposed to a game that is like a cutscene in between unrelated gameplay. And the cutscenes could have been in between any kind of gameplay, and it wouldn't change what the story is, right? Whereas these kinds of games, which is something I hugely appreciate, the theme of this game and this kind of story it is, like this sort of white knuckle, like just barely survive thing, makes perfect sense in like in a kind of game that you would typically associate with like arcadey score driven gameplay. So that was that was awesome, and I think that's such a great
the game is rife with moments where you see the thing you're supposed to get to and you're looking and your oxygen is just danger and you hear yourself like you hear like fuck and then you get within like an inch of screen space and just like flatline floating into the beyond. And you're just like, God damn it.
But you also have amazing saves at times too that are incredible, you know?
Right.
So anyway, I actually just asked him in an email where it takes place, because I felt like the two obvious conjectures are in space and then in deep sea. Those are the two. Those are like I postulated like Antarctica or some other like completely inhospitable,
like lifeless
terrestrial space. Yeah, and he replied. He said the ambiguity is okay. I hope it's okay. I'm sure he thinks it's okay that I'm reading this. There's no personal anything in this reply.
Probably. Yeah.
He says the ambiguity is 100% intentional. Whoa, am I in the ocean or what's going on here? What was that? Is so much more interesting to me than I'm underwater. Especially when the really salient thing for me was just to put the player in a hostile environment. Anyway, I've never heard of anyone actually identifying the setting as what I still believe to be the only real or possible scenario. Antarctica is closer to the mark than outer space or deep sea, though. There are clues in the game, I think, but they're not so much written out narrative clues as a deduction you'd have to make eventually if you assume that the terminal itself is for all intents and purposes a reasonable and non-reductive piece of radar equipment. And then he alludes to like interactions between aggressive entities in the game and stuff, which is like, which is cool.
Yeah, it's nuts when you're floating through whatever the space, I'll say.
Yeah,
getting to where you're going, and then you see a thing that's like a slightly bigger circle than normal, and it comes after you, and you're like, "Fuck me!" Yeah, it's so affecting. Literally, circles and squares like
Yeah. Oh, it's terrifying.
on
it's
space,
awesome.
like on a
Yeah.
2D plane, and it's fucking horrifying when that
Yeah.
thing comes after you. It does feel like this is a game that was made by somebody who probably saw The Thing once.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
feels like that.
Yeah.
That's why that was one of the reasons.
Right, why you brought up
I jumped to
Antarctica.
that. Yeah,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
one of the things I thought was that really like struck me about that email response was that as the author of this game, to him, there's like, yeah, I feel like there's probably one like plausible setting for this, and I love that to him, it's not like the thing that I designed it as.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I was going for a certain vibe. And the thing necessary to create this vibe, like there's probably like one basically realistic explanation for what this is.
He had to be reductive in his creation,
Exactly. Yeah.
as well. Yeah,
which
that's
is really
cool.
Which is, I think that's. I don't know if I am even capable of thinking that way as like someone who makes things, and so I respect it even more.
I love it.
Like that's such an awesome way to be as a designer.
Yeah, that's a really I'm always in awe of that sort of thing. Like someone who is sort of
Because that's that requires confidence.
Exactly. Like there's so much confidence there, and there's so much like faith in your own creation to be able to say that sort of thing. That it's just like, yeah, fuck yeah, my game probably has a place. But who knows what it is?
No, totally.
I don't know. There's something really, really just fucking awesome about
And I haven't.
But you also can get away with that with a game where, like, you know,
it's
you make a game like this because you want to get rich, because you want to make a good game. Like, it's not like if it lands, amazing, and obviously, like his games can land.
It's
we
very
know that, you know.
It's totally. It's very. It reminds me of like 30 Flights of Loving in that respect. It was made because Idle Thumbs did a Kickstarter. Right. Like obviously.
Oh, he made this for the Venus Patrol Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Did he make
I don't
it
know if he
for
made
the
it for-
Kickstarter?
I don't really know, but
I don't know about that.
That's how it was originally released.
Yeah.
So it obviously wasn't a game that he was expecting to make him rich.
Right.
Right. He didn't make it.
I'm going to give it to everybody who would want it
as a commercial concern, right? Like it was something he wanted to obviously just make because he thought it was cool.
Good.
Yeah.
sort of thing.
I'm probably about halfway. I'm
only
probably
actually-
about halfway done with it too.
It must have had like a year exclusivity or something because it only just now came out on Steam.
Yeah.
Like a month ago.
But it is
Okay.
like $3.
But it's not expensive. Yeah. It's like $5. I think it's
Maybe
$5.
$5.
The Steam summer sale is going on, so it's probably discounted. But
Yeah. Oh, if
So good.
when you're in there just buying, going supermarket sweeps on the Steam
Get
summer
that
sale,
one.
get this one.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Make it one of
it's
your
And I haven't
choices.
negligible.
I haven't dug back into it to really like parse through all the terminal stuff and everything, but it's been long enough since I played
What's
it
funny
that
is
maybe
that
I've got another
terminal
play
stuff,
in me.
when the story started inside these messages, I wasn't really into it.
Sure.
And then it just got good. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. There was just a message where like, oh, this is good. This is good.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is well written. This is good.
I'm into this.
Like, oh yeah. Like, I don't know how else to describe the moment, but I was probably 3 terminals in and I'd already sort of at the second one. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. But then
Sure.
the third one hit and I'm like, oh, thank you for, you know what I mean?
It feels like that's a style of game that's particularly awesome because it feels like it's mechanically sound as well as sort of. It feels like to me there are so many games I will completely excuse like not being the most interesting game mechanically if it has a cool story or if I'm
or vice
discovering
versa.
something
Yeah.
amazing, you know, that sort of thing. And it sounds like this is really like it's kind of got both going on.
Well, that's something that I increasingly appreciate more and more, and actually is starting to make me less tolerant in the other direction. You know what I mean?
same.
Like,
For
I
sure.
would honestly rather have a developer be less ambitious in an area they don't care about, that they clearly don't care about that much, rather than try and include it because it's what this genre does or whatever.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, I really am just, at this point, I've played probably, like, if I look at my entire game playing life, I've played a lot of games from basically every single viable genre.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, pretty much. You know, excepting the most extreme of, like, Grognardian war games and stuff, right? Like, except for the stuff really on the fringes, I've played a lot of, like, every major genre and most of the minor genres. And I don't really need, like, I really don't need more of just all
mediocre
that shit
it's something that's not
great. You know, like,
hitting
just
something.
do the things that your game is actually going to be really good at and just downplay the other stuff, because it's also just expensive to make all that shit. Like, why even bother? I know obviously if you're operating at the AAA level, those decisions are often out of your control, so like, what are you going to do, I guess. But that's one of the reasons smaller games are great, because you can choose to just say, fuck it, these are the things I care about, these are the things I'm good at.
Here's what the game actually is. Here's what the player experience should be.
Yes, exactly. And like, all those parts are important to all the other parts.
Yes.
You know, none of them is just there because it is. They're all there because they're supporting each other.
I played a game recently that really kind of hits this,
Yeah?
but in an interesting way, in a very interesting way. So it was a game called Murdered Soul Suspect. I don't know if I.
Oh man, this is a
talked about it.
contentious game because
It's
some
a
people
very
hate
contentious
some
game.
people hate this game.
Yeah, most people hate this
I
game.
have not played it.
I really enjoyed it because it's an awesome sort of ghost story. Okay, but I'll be fully
Yeah.
I'll be fully honest here. I'm just a horror dork. I love like a good ghost story. You know, a ghost story that's more about, you know, the fiction of that person's life and sort of the idea of like, you know, you're going through whatever your unfinished business is and to cross over to the next world. Like something about that mysticism really appeals to me much more than like a jump scare or, you know, whatever,
totally.
that kind of bullshit. So this was like a game that took its slightly cheesy but very earnest ghost story completely seriously. And it had sort of a cool LA noir, I know, cool and LA noir in the same sentence, detective fiction, and you were a detective. You were a detective in life, and then you're basically like a ghost detective in this game.
Yeah.
You are definitely
Cheesy as hell.
Definitely
Cheesy.
a ghost detective.
Yes, you are.
There's definitely
With a fedora.
how many?
There's a fedora. He wears a
7 bullet
fedora.
holes through his torso with
Exactly.
light coming through them.
Exactly. So, like, if you can get on board with that sort of stuff,
I'm on board.
this game was a
moment.
lot of fun. But it had this weird, stupid stealth action mechanic that came about every time you sort of solved a big mystery, you know.
So I feel like I have to.
It's not out on PC
already.
yet.
If you're saying that, I feel like I have to challenge
is.
your inclusion in this game. In the
I'm
ranks
saying it's-
of the.
I'm saying it's an offender. I'm saying
Oh,
it's an offender in this way, but it's still a worthwhile. I feel like a worthwhile
that's totally
game.
fine. I thought you
Yeah.
were introducing this game as an
no.
example of the like holistically complete. Like
No, this is like an offender that I
that's
found
fine.
worthwhile.
that's fine
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I don't mean to suggest that I like
That's okay.
don't play games that are like
No.
a noble failure is still or a noble pseudo like somewhat failure is still often really interesting.
This was a game. I think I gave it a 7 out of
Yeah.
10,
I
and
saw-
most
I-
sites were like
Yes,
4 or 5.
I read your
or
review. That's
something.
why I was skeptical
Yeah,
when
I
I,
mean, it got
misinterpreted
middle-
you
it got-
as what you were
Oh,
saying because
yeah.
I'm like, wait a second, you gave this game a 7, which is nothing to
7's
sneeze
actually
at.
very high
No,
for
I
me.
realize
You,
that.
you gave
But
it
it's also,
the
if you're saying
highest
it's 7,
score
you're
it
also-
got, by
yeah.
the way.
Yeah, I know.
You gave it a
No,
nice.
she didn't.
Yeah, she did. I'm looking at it right now.
I
I mean, I'm
think
not
on
looking at the Metacritic. I'm
anyway.
looking at the review scores on Wikipedia.
It was myself and Susan
Gamesbeat
Arendt.
gave it an 89 according to Metacritic.
Well, I mean, no offense to Gamesbeat.
Susan Arendt at Joystick also liked it. Gave it like a 3 out of 5 or whatever.
She gave it a
there.
3.5.
3.5 out of 5.
You guys
which
both
is-
gave it 7s.
Yeah, exactly. And she felt exactly the same way I did. I don't mean to speak for her, but like in her review, she kind of called out the same exact thing. Like, this was a game about story, about atmosphere, about detail, and about sort of, even if it's earnest and a little cheesy, like it very much, it hit all the right notes for a good ghost story, basically.
Sure.
And it was fun to be a ghost, and it was fun to sort of poltergeist
ghost.
objects. Yeah, you could
Danielle
walk through
Riendeau.
walls.
Oh,
Yes, it's
how's
fun.
the romance
It's fun to
story?
be a ghost. It's not a central part of the game
That's too
actually,
bad.
but there's a lot of like if you're into that, you can find these little hints and things. And actually, one of the coolest parts of the game, and it's not exactly central to the game, you can find objects in the houses and in the buildings and so on and so forth. If you find all the objects to a certain case or story, you get this little radio drama that's just a little
I love
ghost
stuff
story.
Like that. I like actual like produced radio dramas in games.
Exactly. And it was like all this love was put into it, all this attention to detail was put into it. And I kind of loved it, even despite this sort of
Totally.
like shitty stealth mechanic that they sort of threw in and everything. So I guess what I'm saying is it's fun to be a ghost.
Nobody has questioned
No one,
that.
yeah, no one would contest
In
that.
conclusion.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I love going home.
I was kind of shocked though, to be honest, when it didn't review all that well almost anywhere.
Yeah, but I'm looking at these like synopses of these reviews on Metacritic, and a lot of them say like pretty much all of these excerpts that are not just complete pans say things like what you're saying, where it's like the word interesting appears in almost every single one of these review synopses.
Which is almost the kiss of death at AAA, or not AAA, but this was a
For this
higher
kind
budget
of-
game
like
for
a
sure.
disc,
Yeah.
a game that you go at this
A
in this
disc-based
day and
game.
age, right?
Yeah.
Like a game that you actually go to GameSpot and buy on a disc. That is like a class of game still.
We had a
Like,
producer.
it must
We had
be
a
like
producer on The
5
Walking
million
Dead.
and up kind of thing. Like,
What's that?
We had a producer on The Walking Dead who I really like a lot. Good guy. And every time I pitched something I wanted to do or was going to do that he was not on board with, it was always interesting.
oh man,
Interesting.
kiss of death.
Interesting. And I was like, okay. All right.
You know what's
Somewhat
the
large scale.
ridiculous thing about game reviews? scrolling through these Metacritic. Well, there's a million things that are ridiculous about game reviews.
Hold your tongue,
And
sir.
once you start talking about review scores, it becomes even more ludicrous and idiotic. But this is one of the things. So you gave that game a 70. A lot of other people also gave it a 70, according to Metacritic. Everyone who gave it a 70 says this game has great ideas. Like, it's a minor achievement. It's too bad the production's not more refined. Like, it's not perfect, but it's a mystery worth solving. Like, all of the 70s are that, right? It's like basically the sentiment you're communicating.
Yeah.
All of the 60s are like, this game just misses the mark. Just generally underwhelming. Never hooked me. That's the biggest problem. This game's as troubled as its protagonist. So many problems. That's the split. Between 60 and 70. There's an entire, across this entire scale, like, somehow there's a line there that when you cross it, it goes from being like, give this a shot.
That's some good stuff.
Like, really good. All to like, unacceptable.
Piece of crap, 60. It's
Which
really...
I guess is kind of like how grades are, right? Like a D versus a C. That's kind of...
But that seems nonsense.
I know, I agree.
We've had this big conversation.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. It's total nonsense because these scores... Yes, for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to rehash why. But, it just, reading through them, it makes it even more ludicrous to just see that, invisible line being crossed, and suddenly this very minor difference compared to a 100-point scale, this fairly minor, difference in score.
It's really...
Yeah, just becomes... What?
I'm reading a review. There's just a really nice... I'm reading the pull quotes and then the, whatever the sentences underneath the photos, the captions. I'm just... Soul-sucking demons are genuinely frightening. IGN.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
They are. Soul-sucking demons are genuinely frightening.
Yeah,
Facts.
They're the part of the game that sucks. They're the crappy action section. Or the Dementors. They look like the Harry Potter Dementors.
They do look like Harry Potter's
a
Dementors,
lot.
but they're kind of red.
Only they're orange instead of... Yeah, they're orangey red instead of black and cloaked.
Yeah.
Hey, anyway, that game's kind of fun. Don't listen to all these people.
Keep the haters out.
Yeah, keep the haters out.
Play Murdered Soul Suspect.
It's just... It would have been a much better game without that.
Which we should point out.
It's sort of...
The name is itself a pun.
Oh yeah, it's a little cheesy. There's no question. This is like a
like soul, as in singular.
This is very much like a dime store detective novel with a good, robust kind of old school ghost story. That's what this is, and that appeals to me on so many levels. So I was already predisposed to sort of like this dorky shit.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
Yeah. Hey, I thought it was good.
Hey, Christopher.
Yeah.
Did any of the delightful, lovely, good-looking readers send us an email?
Yeah, they did. Hold on a sec.
Loads.
Excellent.
God, I was trying to find this and I'm not going to find it in time. Someone sent us a picture of the Assassin's Creed, whatever the new one is.
Unity. Assassin's Creed Unity.
Maybe it was the one before that's already out. I don't even know. There's a million of those now. Someone sent me a screenshot of a promotional key art picture of an Assassin's Creed game with it was Spectaculaire, IGN.com, and then underneath it was Spectaculaire, IGN.com. Under that, Glorioso, IGN.com, and it was just all the translations, all attributed to IGN, just in a row, just 4 different languages right in a row, and it fucking cracked me up.
That's so good.
Yeah, it was really good.
Very nice.
Or was it IGN Espanol?
No,
IGN?
they all just said IGN. It was the best.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's really, really good.
Yeah. Okay, let's find some reader mail here.
Oh, man. There was a movement on Twitter that you should say the it's. You didn't, though.
That I should?
No, that Danielle
that Danielle should say the it's.
Yeah.
I was just continuing, the trend of saying one's name.
Yeah, well, you did good.
Yeah, that was fine.
Thanks.
Yeah. Mike Watson.
I'm glad I
I
pronounced
don't think
my own
I've
name
ever said
correctly.
the it's.
We'll get you next time.
Enough it's to go around.
It's for everybody. It's.
We have a bunch of email that I haven't sorted yet here, but there's one really quickly. Actually, this is not quick. This is incredibly long.
I can read one while someone else scrolls.
Well, the problem is they're just not. I didn't sort them in advance this week, so they're not. We usually filter them into a to read folder,
right? But now,
yeah. Okay, so Paul. Okay, here's one. Paul Hoey says, "Hey Thumbs, listening to the latest podcast, and Chris is talking about the complex controls of Star Citizen. It reminded me of an interview with Ken Levine or someone else who worked on a Deus Ex or System Shock complexity game. about GTA 3, where he mentioned how he was amazed when he was playing GTA 3 for the first time. I think this is Ken. I think I've heard him talk about this before. To steal a car, all he had to do was press a single button. His guy walked to the car, opened the door, got in, and turned on the engine. He said if he was creating that feature, you'd have to walk to the door, press a button to open the door, press a button to get in, press a button to close the door, and then start the engine yourself. He was amazed at how simple this mechanic was when in this implementation. Where do you think the line needs to be drawn between a complex immersive experience and ease of use for the player when it comes to controls? Do you think ease of use can impact gameplay too negatively, i.e. the trend of two guns to make weapon switching simpler on a gamepad? Paul. Well, for one thing, that trend I don't know if that's beneficial or harmful as a trend, but the game that introduced that, or encouraged it heavily was Halo, and I think Halo does it brilliantly, which doesn't mean I think all games should do that, but as an individual design choice for that game, I think it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really believe in sort of like design by mantra of
no, I don't either.
Design for ease of use, design for simplicity,
I
design
agree.
design the thing that makes the game feel the way you want it to feel.
Exactly.
And in Halo, that's what you wanted. You were like your singular soldier surviving against every alien on a planet. And do I want this or do I want that? And when I don't know, and I don't know when the next gun's
reevaluation of those choices.
Yeah,
is like really
and like that's just part of like the
Yeah.
mental loop of that game. It's like, where am I going? What do I have? What do I need? Where am I going? Like I don't know.
Absolutely.
Player experience.
Yeah,
is king.
so like designing for that seems much better. Which is why GTA getting in a car is the way it is.
Yes.
Where it's just like, give me that fucking car.
Here's
Yeah.
the difference between the game. Okay, so here's a way I would put it. It depends whether you're making a game about the act of doing something, or if you're making a game about a person who is good at doing that thing. So if you're making a game about a guy who's good at carjacking, don't make you press all the buttons because then the guy's going to look like a fucking idiot.
Right.
If you're making a game about the act of about like the actual like sensation of carjacking, which GTA is not at all.
Right.
It's about the emotional
complicated,
feeling
yeah.
of like stealing a car. It's not about like the procedure of it.
Right.
Right. Then
Which would be a cool game, by the way. Just sort of like
Carjacking
getting to the
simulator.
car. Like, how am I going to get in?
Totally.
How am I going to?
Well, that's like, Quadrilateral Cowboy, right? Like that's about a game. That's not a game about like emotionally being a spy. That is a game about the procedure of like executing a heist.
Right.
That's what that game's about, and it's awesome, right? And like, space combat game actually kind of splits the difference there. Like, it's kind of about that procedure. That's why it's got this like sort of shadow of the stuff of like divert power to shields, like select a target on my radar, like do all the things. But it's not really trying. It's not like Microsoft Flight Sim or Falcon 4.0.
Right.
It's not really trying to do that. But it's also not Rebel Assault. Like, it's not just an arcadey like scroll around. Like it's and all three of those games are valid ways to design a game, at least in theory, because they're aiming like Rebel Assault is like feel like you're in the movie.
It's a different
and then
experience,
X-Wing is like, what if you were an X-Wing pilot? But that's not a real thing, so you can't really be that rigorous about it. And then Falcon 4.0 is like, what if you're actually flying one of these fuckers?
Yeah.
So it depends what you're going for. There's no one size fits all, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if there is something to be said about the trend of oversimplifying games on a mechanical level that's been happening. That's certainly something that's been happening in the console space for the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years.
Well, I mean, it feels like they're
perhaps.
oversimplifying the individual mechanics, but then piling on the individual mechanics to the point
So
where there's a
Sure.
simple
a
interaction to
million
do
simple
40 things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
You know what I mean? And that's...
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird that a lot of modern console action games, you're not really doing like that many interesting things, but every fucking button on your controller is definitely spoken for.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know if I'm like,
Absolutely.
if the actual thing I'm doing as a human here like justifies the hilarious number of inputs I have. Controllers are weird. They have so much more buttons than you'd think. They seem, you look at them and, well, no, I mean, if you're not a video gamer, you look at it and it would look
it looks like
crazy.
an alien
But like, as
thing,
someone who
yeah.
plays a lot of games, like controllers don't look intimidating at all.
Right.
But they have so many buttons in total of all the different ways you can input things, including clicking analog sticks and all that shit. It's nuts.
Yeah. It's not simple.
No. Then obviously PC games can go bonkers in that regard.
That's the new Idle Thumbs theme song for episode 200.
It's Lorem ipsum.
Like, super like, like
We're
super.
getting hammered recently on our likes.
I know,
Oh,
that's
no.
why I was making fun of us. I was
Yeah,
trying to co-opt the
Yeah, fair enough.
scorn.
Like super.
It's just like Super, Danielle.
It's like a super awesome thing.
This is the part that's going to get cut out.
I'm sorry.
No, 'cause I don't want to be on
I
record
kinda
having
figured.
said this.
Kind of figured. Here, I'm going to just put shades on a lobster.
Did we read, Danielle, did we read the email addressed to you about Metal Gear Solid 5? And thanks for bringing it up. Or did I never read that to you?
I honestly don't remember. I'm sorry. I'm
Kid, I'm going to start
blanking
reading
a little
it
bit
and
on this.
tell
but-
me if I'm
okay.
if I'm completely blanked. You're welcome to use this email for any purpose, but please keep me anonymous. Hello, Danielle.
I read this, but I don't think it was read on the podcast. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So go ahead.
I'm writing to you about the segment on the Idle Thumbs podcast, about 27 minutes, that you covered the sexual assault scene in Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. You said there's little to no controversy, and you were surprised to find fewer gamers angry about it. I just wanted to say thanks for bringing it up. It's been in a few threads on reddit.com/r/girlgamers and in Super Bunny Hop's critique of Metal Gear Solid 5's story. I guess I'm writing this because I'm dealing with my own troubles. Okay, and then this person describes a situation that I'm not going to describe on the air here, but it was a trauma that is relevant. Fast forward a few months, I got the sense that the character's rape was Big Boss's means for revenge. Essentially another woman put into a fridge. It was very awkward and hard to listen to. George from Super Bunny Hop also noticed how weird it was to hear something so traumatic ordered by a guy called Skullface.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no doubt that...
Sure, that's on a mispronunciation of like
Sculface
or something,
Sculface.
like an Italian.
A lot of YouTube comments dismiss complaints saying this is just what happens in war, and Kojima wanted to make a game that displays rape realistically. There's no doubt Kojima is a talented writer, but if this is what is intended, it did not work. I'm troubled by those who would want to use rape in a video game so haphazardly. In my opinion, Kojima was negligent in using sexual assault in Metal Gear Solid 5. If rape is ever featured in a video game respectfully, it wouldn't be in an action game or in a game like this. It might be something like Zoe Quinn's Depression Quest. It wouldn't focus on getting revenge, but on healing. Such a game would tackle issues such as rape culture, slut/victim blaming, and other forces. I guess this struck an awful chord with me because it brings up the disparity between representation of sexual assault in media and in reality. I've been crying off and on these past few months. Only a few friends know, and some have been victim blaming or pressure me to press charges, which I don't feel comfortable with. I would feel my self-esteem implode randomly in the middle of a supermarket, and the thoughts would come back. It is very worrying. I would like to add that women who are assaulted have these issues compounded by societal pressures to blame women for rape. The real pain comes from the silence and the trauma afterwards, and I just don't feel comfortable with games that deal with rape as a man's quest for revenge. Those are my thoughts. I'm sorry if this is a bit much, but this whole thing comes with a lot of baggage for many people, including me. Thanks for giving it some attention. So,
yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say would be just thank you to that person for being brave and, speaking about what happened to them. I mean, because that's, insanely hard for a lot of people to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, just reiterating, I don't think rape is something that should be taken lightly in a game. I mean, always with the blanket statement, an artist can do whatever the hell they want to do.
Sure.
All art is valid in its own way, but that doesn't mean people can't speak out against it and
course.
say,
Kojima
this
can
was
do
in
whatever he
horrible
wants.
taste.
Just didn't do it very well.
Yeah,
exactly.
Fucked it up.
Yeah, that includes
Exactly.
receive criticism for the manner in which he does it.
Exactly.
That's the thing that also you have all the baggage, and that's good baggage because you're trying to sell a franchise video game, but you're bringing 4 other Metal Gears behind you. So
it's true.
You know what I mean?
Metal Gear Solid 5, it comes with this cheesy,
right.
It's a crazy, wacky world where
right.
guys hide in a box and it's goofy.
Right.
That is all
and
part of the assumption when you start
things.
playing Metal Gear Solid 5.
Exactly. It's part of the whole mise en scène of the fucking thing.
And there's just so much there that, this wasn't just sort of not that there's any such thing as run-of-the-mill rape, that doesn't exist, but this was sort of a woman was raped by a boy
weird,
at gunpoint.
Unusual,
Yeah, exactly.
It had a level of
aggressive.
specificity to it that, I don't know.
And the ending being about literally this woman has a bomb in her lady parts and it needs to be ripped out with no anesthetic because Snake is the big hero and no anesthetic. It does feel like this weird revenge,
That
angry.
is so fucking crazy.
Exactly.
How does that get out of a conversation with another person? It's baffling that you don't walk out of the office at the end of the day and go, there are going to be any consequences for the thing that are in this game?
Seriously.
I don't know. Okay, good. Just a half a second.
Yeah.
It's baffling to me.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder if it's somebody just trying to do the sort of like shock routine, just like how shocking can we be? How far can we go? Like, I want to push the boundaries, and it's like that's something I thought about when I was 13, but not when I was. I don't know. I guess there's just a certain amount of responsibility.
There is like I feel like there's definitely a mentality, before you reach a certain age, that things that are like transgressive or extreme are somehow inherently realer. You're like, it's like, it's like gritty. It's like reality. That's definitely, I feel like that is like a phase a lot of people go through. And it definitely feels like a lot of video game developers, maybe not as humans, but definitely as people who make stuff, somehow still
are tapping into that a little bit.
Tapping into it. Yeah.
I do wonder if that's the reasoning.
Usually not in such a weird way as this, but but also in more mundane ways that still happens. And it's an odd thing.
Yeah. I agree.
You guys talked about the Battlefield thing last week, Battlefield 4, being about urban combat.
Oh, the Battlefield Hardline.
Right next
to
the
fact there was
a shooter. Literally urban combat.
Yeah, it was actually
in Hollywood or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so funny when the developer is sort of brought out into the light of day and has to talk about it, because you see this 3-frame panic of
absolutely.
Oh man, that hyper insular place where this was conceived inside the walls of everyone who agrees with each other, and now it's walking out into the light, and I have to defend it in reality. I don't know. I watched that interview actually twice, because it was Arthur and Justin.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
We're interviewing whoever was speaking for Battlefield Hardline, and you see, it's it's like a beat, just half a second before you respond of well, and it's in there where you see this times 3 year all come down to this one moment of oh, all the creative choices we made amongst each other and didn't fucking think about for half a second, because we're actually making a game for the guy who's going to buy it for Best Buy, the sales dude there, not for gamers. We're making it for the idea of a human being as opposed to humanity.
Yeah,
it's just so crazy because you see it happen for half a second in a person's face, but I don't know if you see it in Kojima's face.
Exactly. That's sort of what I'm thinking
just goes
about
into his
here.
fucking capsule.
He's actually so far removed from that he's not thinking about that at all. Perhaps.
God, Jake bumped into Kojima at the VGAs, and it was one of my favorite moments of all time.
God.
Oh, really?
Literally physically bumped into him. Kojima also rolls with a fucking posse.
I'm sure. Of course.
Yeah. And just, it was just this moment where it was not the moment happened. The only person who laughed about it was me, because I saw it. Jake bumps into Kojima, and then it's super hyper slow-mo, turns to me over his right shoulder, and his face is just Kojima. And he's just totally gag. I'm it's all happening. It's all happening right now, finally.
Oh my God.
And that was it. And I instantly snapped a photo of the back of Kojima's head and Jake's face just going, "Blah!"
You missed the perfect vine.
Yeah.
The greatest vine of all time. There.
Anyway.
The G vote.
If you too have reader mail or photos of Kojima, please send them to questions@idlethumbs.net. Your own photos. I don't want Google image photos of Hideo Kojima. I can get those myself.
Yeah, right.
And if you want to help us out, you can go to podsurvey.com/thumbs and fill out a short survey about who you are and what you like about, or what your sort of profile is, I guess, as a podcast listener, and be entered into getting an Amazon gift card for $100. It would help us just find people who who can advertise for the podcast that suit our listenership. Yeah. Also, if you haven't been to the Idle Thumbs store in a minute, we are now we were selling it before, but it's back. The Idle Thumbs complete pack, where you can get 2 shirts, stickers, and the Grickle Shitty Wizard prints for a deal for a package price, I think, of $75. Mm-hmm. And that's at store.idlethumbs.net. Everything we have is in stock right now. A couple sizes maybe, but I think everything's in stock.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool, guys.
Awesome.
Cool guys.
I can't help but think about what if, and I don't think this is true, but what if it happened to be that the Idle Thumbs listenership was like, young mothers or something, and you had to start doing diaper ads or something.
We would love
Great.
that. I would love
No, I think it's
nothing
great.
more.
I just the picture in my head
Yeah.
of like three,
Yes.
young dudes
my
who
answer
don't
is-
have
my
children.
answer
We're just
is
like,
yes, please.
these Huggies are the best Huggies. Like,
Please,
that would be
if you
awesome.
know someone who works in the marketing department at Huggies, please refer them
Or
to-
Pampers. Let's
Equal opportunity.
We'll show for whoever.
I don't care,
Whoever
yeah.
pays us more.
Nature Dipes. I don't know.
Nature Dipes?
Whatever exists.
Please, if you know someone at Nature Dipes,
Just
If
call 'em in.
it doesn't
Call
exist,
in that
please
favor.
found
Please.
Nature Dipes.
Nature Dipes,
We will
new
shill for
Idle
you.
Thumbs diaper.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
register a website for it with Squarespace.
You'll be set.
Good for life. Excellent.
God, fingers crossed for Nature Dipes.
Nature Dipes all the way.
Really saved it with Nature Dipes.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Video games.
It's by the It. Yeah. Episode 164.
By the mint.
By the Mint.
Mince it.
Minced. You've been
Mince
minced.
it.
Oh, no. Toast them. Oh, no. Favorite fucking thing on the internet for like a year.